secondly, we try to replace grief with a sense of trust or faith that the God who gave us life and life together will somehow continue this gift, that death does not have the final say-so. So we're grateful that life was shared with us in the person of Michael. Not as many years as we would like to have seen, but nevertheless, quite a few years. And he starts out like everybody else, as someone's son or daughter, siblings, to have classmates. You interact with people on many, many different levels, and you have a place in people's heart, and vice versa. And during life, one knits together little bonds of friendship and relationship. And so all of this is quite beautiful. This was his lot. And he, as I understand, he loved sports, music, photography, scouting. Got his Eagle Scout rank. That's quite an achievement at an early age. And says he would best be remembered for his beautiful smile, kind nature, willingness to help others, both personally and professionally. Never lost his enthusiasm for life, for his sense of adventure. Many friends, greatly loved and admired. Someone very involved with his family. So all of these are very beautiful things. And there's a little meditation. So in many ways, he was a blessed person. There's a little meditation by someone named Donna Gordon, and it sort of celebrates the gift of life. And part of what she says is this: if God gave us only one day of life, it would have been generous. And if God gave us only one springtime or one fall, one summer or winter, it would have been generous. And if God gave us only one day of laughter, it would have been generous. If God gave us only one beautiful meal, beautifully served in a secure home, it would have been generous. And if God gave us only one storm that left us unharmed, it would have been generous. And if God gave us only one day of a good time with friends, it would have been generous. And if God gave us only one talent for creating beauty, it would have been generous. And if God let us laugh only once in the face of calamity, it would have been generous. If God gave us only one moment's pride in the success of those we love, it would have been generous. Donna Gordon also has some, if God had done this or that, that were not realized in his life, not to have children, he didn't have that 1 year of married life. There's still puzzlement, to be 57 in our particular society is relatively young yet. Or to paraphrase Robert Frost, when you're 57, ordinarily one has promises to keep and miles to go before one sleeps, And such is not the case here. So there's a great puzzlement, the suddenness of it all. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with a little book by Rabbi Kushner called When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And I think it covers a multitude of situations. He wrote the book because of something that had happened in his own family. His eldest son, Aaron, had some strange genetic problem, progeria or something like that. His son would literally have no defense against aging. His son would literally die of old age at about 13 or 14. And people came up and said, we're sorry, and it was God's will, etc., etc. And he wants to find it. He searches for God who's in his corner. He says, God is all powerful. He should have done something about it. And then he realized, he goes about it in sort of an interesting way. He reasons in an interesting way. He says that God is all, he says sometimes maybe there's a sense in which God is not all powerful, to the extent that he gives me free will, you free will. Sometimes people use free will in a way that hurts other people. And he says God grieves. And more to the point, God also set into place certain laws of nature. Gravity, neither good nor bad. It keeps this building from floating away. But when you have gravity, things fall. And sometimes in a random way, things fall on people. And there's a bad effect. We're marvelously made with little genes and chromosomes setting up a susceptibility to this or that, Sometimes we have a multiplication of cells, and we have cancer, and there's a bad effect on the person. Sometimes in a random way, there's something that causes the heart to misfire, or this or that, and there's a bad effect. And Rabbi Kushner says, when these things happen, God Now, as in times past, we always pray for the strength to cope with these mysteries as they unfold. But great puzzlement to be 57 and to be in here. We grieve, though, while there's puzzlement, we work through our feelings, and there's always puzzlement. Life is not too logical. It doesn't compute all the time. Like someone says, life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. It's an awesome mystery at times. We grieve, but we grieve as these faith people. Obviously, in the course of 57 years, he was able to celebrate Easter many times, Christmas, being baptized into the mystery of the risen Christ. The Eucharist, pledge of immortality, he eats this bread, will live forever. Proclaiming the ancient creed, believing this belief in the communion of saints. And someone described that belief along these lines. It said as though we live in a big garden. There are all kinds of paths in the garden. But there's this path that leads to this wall called death. And we try to stay away from it because we know people who go down there. But through Christ, we're given a lot of insight. Yes, there's a wall called death, but there's also a gate there that leads to a garden on the other side. So now, we can dare be faith people who accompany our loved ones down this path, bid them farewell, knowing as we bid farewell, there are going to be those on the other side who bid welcome. This is a rich part of our faith, so that we take comfort in today. Now, there's an interesting story about this elderly lady. She was getting up in years, and she made a request for her funeral. She wanted certain songs, she wanted certain readings and the like. And then she said, "I want to be buried with a fork in my hand." And she says, "I can understand all of these, but why the fork in the hand?" And she says, "Well, I've been going to these church dinners a long, long time. And in the better dinners," she says, "sometimes at the end, when they take up the dishes, they say, 'Keep your fork.' And if they say, 'Keep your fork,' it means a good dessert's coming, something as good as in store for us. So if they ask about the fork, tell them I believe that something great is in store for them." And this would be our faith and our belief. But always puzzling. Someone puts it this way: we're not going to understand everything about everything. There will always be gaps in our comprehension of ourselves and our world, but we can see something. We can see that life is good, that love is good, that life is a great gift, and that death does not end our existence. We change, but we have been changing all our lives, and death is just the last of many changes, many developments. The adventure of life may hesitate, but it does not stop at the door of death. For in Jesus' understanding of life, we are made for greater things and higher joy, and we get it. His resurrection is our promise, so that we can still live in the face of death and know that we are more than death. Our life is not made meaningless by death, but more meaningful, because with Jesus we pass over to an even greater life experience. For this we give thanks. We wonder and we doubt and we fear, but we do not give up. We never give up. The Lord of life leads us into a better life. We trust him, we follow, we believe. So today as we grieve, we give thanks for life that was shared with us beautifully in the person of Michael. We give thanks for the gift of faith that enables us to believe that ultimately death does not have the final say-so. Or as a proverb, those who live in the Lord never see each other for the last time. We take confidence.